Uh, is there, he said that I understood the meaning of jinn, I think from tafsir or from my discussion with him. But he says, what is, there is no problem if there is any other creatures in the whole world here and there with other dimensions.
There is no problem. And they never create any problem. To his knowledge, they never came and interfered with his life. Nor did they interfere with the lives of all he knows. So what is the problem? No problem. The problem is only in the mind of those people who like ordinary, credulous people to believe that they are jinns and they have command over jinns. So they can go to them and they can extract money from them, but service is rendered to them by way of dispelling jinns and so on. The problem only lies in that area. Otherwise, jinn are decent people, they don't interfere with the human lives. You see, the problem again rises in relation to Sharia and how far they are obliged or commanded by God to accept a prophet. This is the most important issue which people do not raise, but this is the question which should be raised. If they are a separate entity in themselves, spiritual, some sorts of spiritual beings who are like angels. Now we don't know what angels are, but we know that they can take apparitions. Sometimes an angel is seen in the form of a dove by Jesus Christ. Sometimes the angel is seen by Hazrat Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, filling the entire span of the horizon before him. Sometimes he comes like an ordinary man. So that means that angels have no shape like ours. But to be seen, they have to acquire some shape. That is why the Holy Quran, referring to such an event, says, فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. The angel who appeared to Hazrat Mary was not in his own shape. فَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. A well balanced and a beautiful, comely person it was whom Mary saw, but it was not that. It was an angel of God. So the angels have to take different shapes when they appear before people. So much so that Hazrat Abraham misunderstood the messenger of Allah to be an ordinary human being. He was so much like him that without asking him for which food we would like or would you like to eat or not, he just ran inside and ordered the goat to be slaughtered and brought honeys, what was Ijlin honeys, not the goat but Ijl. Jab Ijlin honeys. Now that also speaks of the great quality of Abraham's hospitality. The other day, I was discussing it with my children and I told them that when a guest comes, don't ask him or her whether she would like to drink anything or eat anything. Go get whatever is available. Then leave it to the guest, like Abraham did. So it's the side benefit we draw from the Quranic statements. Look at them from any angle and they are beneficial. But the point is Hazrat Abraham could not recognize him. That was the perfect presentation of the angel as a human being. So angels, maybe they are made of different stuff. I don't mean that they are made of the same stuff as jinns, but in their shapes and style they have similar things. They can pass through walls, nothing can stop them. And according to those who believe in jinns very strongly and tenaciously, they are made of fire, yet they do not burn when they occupy you. You see? So they're a different thing, but they do not have a shape because they appear differently. And if they have a shape, then they should be seen by the naked eye of everybody. Because a shape means the light should be reflected from that. So whatever is seen is apparition, which means on our mind an impression is created, and we believe genuinely that impression to be a real outside experience. This is how I look at it. So such jinns, the question now comes, are they mukallaf li sharia or not? Do they have to accept a sharia? And how is the message spread to them? Who conveys the message? Who becomes Da'ir Allah? And how can he convey the message? Can he throw the message all around him in the air so that a jinn may hear and accept? And how do they perform namaz and give zakat and do all the hajj and everything about the sharia which they should do? And how do they marry? And how do they distribute their,
Inheritance.
Bhavan?
Inheritance.
Legacy. Children inherited, they leave the legacy to others. Now when you come to all these issues, then you realize that the jinn, if they're an ethereal thing, they are not obliged by God to accept any prophet. Again, the prophet has to be from among yourselves. The Holy Quran rejects the idea that an angel should descend, and that angels should be sent if they should be sent or should descend if human beings were angels. So how could a human prophet be sent to the jinn? That again is the question. If not, then are there jinn prophets? And what is their relationship? And how is the wahi revealed? Have you read anywhere in the Holy Quran that Allah sent wahi to a jinn? We know Allah sent wahi to even the honey bee. But to jinn I have never read anywhere in the Holy Quran or in Hadith that Allah used to send wahi to jinn. That also decides one issue very clearly, that the jinn mentioned in the Holy Quran who accepted Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, came to him, dialogued with him, and then left back talking among themselves, were not that sort of jinn who cannot be in any way expected by God to follow a prophet or a sharia, because they are differently built. They are not made to follow the sharia which is revealed to human beings for their purpose and for their requirements. If the jinn are a different type of makhluk, their sharia should be different. You know, the Holy Quran says very clearly that at such and such time when you go somewhere, knock at the door, take permission and then enter. Do you ever hear a knock from the jinn that because it is Zohar time, between Zohar and Asr, so I have come and I am follower of the Holy Quran, so I must take permission, Assalamu alaikum, and then he enters. And when he can see through, he can see the people naked as they are. So is this Sharia which is applicable to jinn? They don't, they don't extend their belief into the possible application of their thinking in on different situations. So I believe, therefore, that the jinn, whatever they are, they could be, I don't deny the fact, that among other things they could also be an ethereal type of existing being, which have their own functions and their own purposes. But the jinns which came to Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and became Muslims, they were a people of a tribe, which was a mountainous tribe and which did not want to be seen by the people there around. That is why they chose the night time, and they camped outside Medina And while they camped, they also built fires and cooked things, because when Sahaba visited that place next morning, they saw the signs of all these things. So they were human beings. And that is why they also say that look at us, our stupidity. We used to think that after Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah will send no prophet. So that means they were a people who belonged to the people of Joseph. And there are many in Arabia and other places who particularly believed in Joseph and followed him. Out of the Israelite prophets, many people got divided into factions. Some liked one prophet more and some the other, like Jonah's followers are still found. So from that reference I believe that they, they didn't say that. They didn't name Joseph. The name of Joseph is mentioned in another verse. They only say that look at us, we used to believe that Allah will not send another prophet. How stupid we were. And there you are, we have just met a prophet, Now I related it to Joseph because in another verse this is said about Joseph as well. That as long as he lived, you opposed him. When he died, you started saying God will send no prophet after him. So because they also said that we used to believe there will be no prophet, so that is why I connected them with Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. Maybe they were under the influence of that teaching, but they were a people who did not want to be seen publicly in that area. So that is why they came at night and they camped early morning before anybody was out and about. And they, of course, were mukallafin. They were. It was essential, necessary and essential for them to accept a prophet when it is sent, because they had to be human beings. So the word jinn, as it is also applicable to great people, people who hide, people who belong to rough and rebellious type of people, rebellious tribes, people of the mountains, all these are called jinns. So now, to summarize this, what I say is that it is possible for a special type of existence which is neither angelic nor human to exist separately, and they may be referred to as jinn. But there is no evidence whatsoever from any book that either prophets are sent to them from among them or human prophets also deliver their message to the jinn. Nor is Sharia made to measure them. Jazakumullah. This is the verse from Surah Al-An'am. It says, Ya Ma'ashar al-Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Ya Ma'ashar al-Jinni wal-Insi, Alam yatikum rusulun minkum, yaqussuna alaykum ayati wa yunzirunakum liqa'a yawmikum hadha, qalu shahidna ala anfusina wa gharratuhum al-hayatu dunya wa shahidu ala anfusihim annahum kanu kafirin. Now, this verse, although speaks of jinn as well, including men, but there is a positive evidence that the interpretation which Sayyid Hilmi al-Shafi Sahib suggested is the only acceptable interpretation. What he suggested was that this ayat in fact is a proof that the jinn who are addressed here are human beings. They are not anything other than the human beings. Because if prophets are separately sent to the jinn and the bashar, then there is no record in the Quran, and on the doomsday we do not find human beings as separately being brought to question for questioning and jinn appearing separately for being questioned. So that means Ya Ma'ashar al-Jinn applies to a type of people, a section of the people who are human beings. Now this reminds me of some other verses which are very similar in nature and which indicate that the people addressed are not these ethereal jinn, but human beings in fact. And it starts like this, Ya Mashal Jinn. It is from Surah Ar-Rahman. Ya Mashal Jinn wal Insi, in istata'tum an tanfuzu min aqtari samawati wal ard, fanfuzu, la tanfuzuna illa bi sultan, fabi-ayyi alai rabbikum atuzibun. So what is meant by here, Ya Mashal Jinn wal Insi? What is meant there is perhaps what is meant here. The word jinn, according to the Quranic usage, can be proved to mean the proletariats, the bourgeois, the capitalists, the big people, the great nations. And the word ins, as against this, can be interpreted as the proletariats, the common people. And both have leaders. When the world got divided into two factions, one that of the bourgeois and the other that of the common people, they also had their leaders. You know, the ones who ruled and commanded them. And so also the bourgeois, the capitalists, had the same. So the address here is in fact to the leaders of the common people as well as to the big people. Leaders of the poor nations as well as to the rich nations. That from among every one of you, whichever section of human society you belong, we have been sending prophets. This is an interpretation which I believe is not only applicable, this is the only interpretation which is valid here in this context. I refer to the other verse. There also, it is quite clear that Ya Mashal Jinn and Ya Mashal Ins indicates the two divisions of mankind. Because there it is very clear that it speaks of a time when it would be possible for human beings to think of jumping out of the corners, or the limits of the earth and heaven and earth, and go across. As long as that was not possible, the Quranic challenge is meaningless. So it was a challenge for the future. Otherwise, the human being, at least about the jinn they could say, that they can jump up and go up. But about human beings, they could not take a jump of 8 feet high. On what could they sit and ride? There is no aeroplanes either. So that shows that this challenge, that if you want to go across the limits of the universe, of Aqtari Samawati wal Ard, the periphery of the whole universe, try to do it. Show it. And you will certainly fail to do it, because yursalu alaykuma shawazum wa nuhasum min nar fala tantasiran. The fire of different sorts would be bolted upon you, it will be sent against you, and you will not be able to cross these barriers. This is indicative of a future age, and an age where mankind would be divided into big people and the ordinary people, bourgeois and proletariats, socialists and capitalists. Both would try, this is a prophecy, both would try to go across to moon, to beyond, to Mars, etc., and to cross the limits of the universe. The Holy Quran does not say that you will not be able to go across Aqtar al-Ard, because the Aqtar al-Ard or Aqtar al-Samai Dunya are very limited and small. But what the Holy Quran is saying is, it would be impossible for you to cross the ultimate periphery, the outer boundaries of the universe. At that time, man did not understand, neither the jinn nor the ins. But now we understand it fully, what the impact of this verse is, because
Now we know that it would require around between 18 and 20 billion years for a man, if he is riding the shoulder of a ray of light, travels at the speed of light, which is 186 miles per second. It would take him more than 18 billion years to reach the end of the universe. And by that period, the universe would have expanded further. Because Allah says, I have created inna wa inna la musawun. We are constantly expanding the universe. And this is exactly what the scientists tell us, that it's the expanding universe. So even if they could do that, even if they could live for 20 billion years in future, by the time they reach there, the universe would have gone 20 billion years ahead, farther away. So this is the meaning of this verse. In fact, it is a prophecy. A great prophecy about the times to come, the inventions to be made, and the ambitions born in man. Now we are going to conquer the universe. The answer is, you will not be able to do whatever you may. It will be impossible. So this is not the same jinn you hear about. You know it from the facts. Why should we interpret the Quran against the facts which have already appeared before our eyes? That both the proletariats and the bourgeois attempted to go out into space. And the proletariats succeeded in doing it first. Ya mashar al-jinn wal ins. Here the jinn are, although mentioned first, but ins and jinn are bracketed together. Both will make an effort. But proletariats left them behind. But now they are no more. Now all that there is left in the race is the jinn. They will continue to make this effort and they will exceed, of course. But they will never be able to transgress the limits which have been set by the Holy Quran. So if we interpret the word jinn in a broader understanding, in an understanding which is in accordance with the scientific findings of man, then we pay much greater homage to the Quran and tribute to the Quran than otherwise. I have taken so much time just by way of rendering advice to those people who overemphasize the belief in jinn, because that is irrelevant. What is important is to interpret the Quran correctly, of course, but in a manner that it does not contradict the scientific discoveries of man. In fact, they support that meaning. So what I have done is very clear. So this single verse can be quoted as a proof both of the existence of God and of the truth of the Holy Prophet of Islam. But those who say no, jinn always and the only means that some creature, which occupies women or captures somebody else's cooking and brings to your home, the thing which is involved in stealing a fried chicken from somewhere or to conquer somebody's love, if a mullah reads a charm over it, if this is the type of jinn, where such things are mentioned in the Holy Quran? And if such jinn have made an attempt, how do we know? No question. Men of that age could not have made an attempt anyway. The jinn, if they make such attempts, we don't know. So where is the evidence of the truth of the Quran? But the way I have interpreted it has become manifestly clear. Even that can be possible. I don't deny that.
No.
An occasional brush as an experience can take place between jinn and man. But that is not by way of the jinn's domination over man or his being subjugated by man. Sometimes Allah shows these things to strengthen the belief in the unseen.
No.
So it is possible, I don't reject
No.
that possibility.